welcome to class. So in today's video I'm going to be showing us how to make a basic bodice, half scale basic bodice. So, and the measurement we are going to be working with today is bust 40, natural waist 32, bust point 11, and the front half length is 18 and back half length is 16. So we are going to be working with bust 40, natural waist 32, bust point 11, front half length 18, back half length 16, and bust span is 8 inches. So these are the measurements we are going to be working with today. So the first thing you do, you have to bring out your pattern paper, and you are going to take your bust measurement, which is 40. So it's bust 40, the highest measurement, bust 40 plus 2 divided by 2. So 40 plus 2 divided by 2, I have 42. If I divide it by 2, I have 21. So the wideness of my pattern is 21. So this part is guideline and this part top here is guideline. So I just marked a guideline here and I also marked a guideline. So, and I have 21. So the wideness of my pattern here also is a guideline. So the wideness of my pattern now is 21 inches. So the distance from this guideline to this part is 21 inches. So we're going to be drafting it. So the first thing I'll do now, I'm going to rule out my front half length because I'm going to be drafting my back and my front. So this is my front. I'll label it front, and this is my back. So I'm going to be bringing out my front half length, which is 18 inches. So I'm going to start measuring from here to here, 18 inches. Good. So, and my back half length is 16 inches. So I'll read that out. So that's back half length. So this is front half length. So I want to make sure my line is as straight as possible. Perfect. So I'll call here the front half length. Remember, we are drafting a half scale basic bodice. Front half length 18 inches and I have my back half length 16 inches. So I'm just going to cut so I can have everything I need visible. So I'm just going to put in some tape to keep down my pattern paper so it doesn't move. Okay. So I hope you guys can see what we have done so far. So the next measurement we are going to be marking here is the bust line. So the bust line, I'm actually drafting this half scale basic bodice for a client. The bust line for this client is 8 inches. So I'll just explain here how to get a bust line. So you can use your round sleeve divided by 2 to get your bust line. So I'm going to be marking the bust line around here. So because I'm going to be taking 1 inch for my shoulder slope for the front, so I'm going to mark 9, assuming I'm adding my 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So I'm going to bring out the bust line. Remember, we are drafting a half scale basic body. So the round sleeve for this person is 16 inches. So I divided that by 2 and I have 8 inches. So that is why I'm using 8 inches for the round sleeve of this pet, for the bust line, to find the bust line of this bodice. So now this is my bust line. This is my bust line. So the next line we are going to be bringing out is the bust point. The bust point, which is 11. So I'm going to be marking 11 around here. 11, bust point 11. So, and I'll connect that as well. So here is my bust point and here is my bust point. Good. So now that we have our bust line and our bust point, we have our horizontal lines out. So the next thing that you're going to be doing, you want to mark your neckline. So I'm going to come here to mark the neck wideness of this pattern is 3 inches, and the neck depth as well is also 3 inches. Though I'm going to be altering this pattern later, but I just want to show you guys a guide on how to draft your half scale basic bodice. So, and the shoulder length is 8 inches, so I'm going to be marking 8 inches around here. So I'll come to the back. So remember, this is my center front, this is my CF, which is my center front, this is my CB, which is my center back. So every measurement is taken from the CF or the CB, which is center back or center front. So I'm going to mark here as well 8 inches for my shoulder measurement. I'll also just come down here to mark the same 8 inches, just for accuracy, for me to have a really straight line. So I'll come down here as well. I'm also going to be marking 8 inches. Then I'll take my ruler and I'll connect that to my bust line. Good. I'll do the same for the back. I'll connect that to my bust line, like so. So now I'll take my curved ruler. I'm going to be curving my neckline for my front. I have 3 inches by 3 inches. So I'll curve that there. Then I'm going to be coming here for my front bodice. I'm going to take 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So I'm marking 1 inch. Then I'll take my ruler to slope it down to meet the 1 inch mark. So for the back is usually a little bit higher than the front, but you can do as it pleases you. But for me here, I'm going to be using 0.75 for the shoulder slope for the back. 0.75 is just perfect. And remember, my front neck width is 3 inches, so I'm going to do the same 3 inches for the back neck width, and the back neck depth is 1 inch. Then I'll take my curved ruler as well and I'll connect that together like so. Okay, that's good. So the next thing you want to do is to come here to impute your chest line. So if you take your measurement and you measure your chest line, you notice the front is usually smaller than the back. That's, the back is always wider than the front. So I'll come here and I'll take half of my armhole line, which is 4 inches now. I'll do the same thing for the back. I'll measure the half of my armhole line. So for the back, I have 4.25 because the back shoulder slope is actually smaller than the front shoulder slope. So I'm going to connect my back shoulder slope like so. So the next thing I want to do is to come in here by 0.5 inch for my front. And for the back, I'll stay on the line. So I'm going to just take my armhole curve. I'll curve from that place down to my side seam like so. Good. So for the front, I'm going to be curving my armhole to meet up with that 0.5 inch that I marked inside my bodice like so. So I'll take off my armhole curve and I'll continue the connection. Good. So now I have my front and my back armhole ready. So the next thing you want to do, you want to bring the bust span. The bust span we are working with today, which is the nipple to nipple measurement, is 8 inches. So I'm going to be adding 0.5 inches to that, which I'm, instead of marking, so bust span is 8. Okay, let's do this. Bust span is 8 divided by 2, I have 4. So I'm going to plus 0.5 inches to that. So it's bust span divided by 2, that's what you use for the dart, plus 0.5 inches. So I'm going to come here to my front half length. I'm going to now be marking 4.5 inches. So I intend to use 1 inch for my dart. So I'm going to be marking my dart allowance 1 inch on both sides. So I'm going to take the first 1 inch here then I'll mark the other 1 inch here. So I'll come to my bust point. I'll also mark the 4.5 inch on my bust point. So on that line, I'm just going to move away from my bust point by 1 inch. So that is how long my dart is going to be. So I'll connect my dart onto a straight line like so. So I have 1 inch on both sides. So this is my dart. So my dart is actually 2 inches wide, okay? So this is my dart for the front. So for the back dart, I'm going to come here. I'm not going to come down by any inches, but I'm also going to measure the 4.5 inch. And remember, our dart measures 1 inch wide on both sides. So my dart length is actually, my dart width is actually 2 inches. So I'm going to connect that for the back. So my back dart goes all the way to my bust point. So now this is my front dart and this is my back dart. I have my back dart and my front dart out already in this my pattern. So remember, we already made this pattern as wide as my bust measurement plus ease. So I came to my bust, I didn't put any measurement because this pattern wideness is already my bust and ease measurement. So I'm only just going to come to my waist to insert my measurement on my waist so I can shape my bodice. So remember, the waist that we're working with is 8 inches. So this is 8 inch. That is, the waist is 32. Quarter of 32 is actually 8 inches. So I'm marking 8 inches around here and I'm adding my dart allowance. Remember, my dart is as wide as 2 inches. So I'm taking that 2 inches there. I'll do the same for the back. Quarter of my waist is 8 inches. So I'll mark the 8 inches around there. Then I'm going to replace my dart of 2 inches. Remember, you cannot take what you did not give, okay? So because I gave 2 inches for my dart, so I'm taking it away from that part. So I'm going to now connect from my bust to meet my waist measurement like so. So I'll do the same thing for the back side. I'll connect to meet my waist measurements. So I'm going to be showing us how to add seam allowance to your pattern. Maybe when you're cutting on your fabric or you want to add your seam allowance in another pattern paper before you transfer to your fabric, is all the same. But for this tutorial, I'm actually drafting this half scale bodice because I'm making this for a client. We are going to be altering it in our next video and I'm going to show us how to add out your sewing allowances to this. So the next thing you want to do, because my front half length is actually longer than my back half length, so and in most cases why that is mostly because of the bust. In many cases, because there's a bust at the front, there's no bust at the back. So I'm going to be bringing my bust dart here. So to create your bust dart, you are going to go down by 2 inches from your bust point. Good. So this is my dart. So and I'm going to be connecting that like so. So this is going to be my bust dart and I'll connect it to meet up with my bust point. So this is my bust dart. So I'm going to write bust dart. Let me use a pencil. Bust dart. Then this is my waist dart. Okay, let's make this clear enough. Bust dart. So I hope you guys have been able to understand everything that we did here so far. In our next class, I'm going to be showing us how to alter this pattern into any kind of design that you wish for it to be. So but for now, we have succeeded in learning how to make a half scale bodice. This is the front and this is the back. So I'm going to just cut it out for us to see at the moment. So but before I cut it out, I'm going to be extending my bust dart so that it's going to show on this pattern that I actually have a dart there. So I'm actually going to extend that out so I don't have any issues when I'm trying to make this pattern. And remember, you cut with your paper scissors. Like I have my fabric scissors here, I also have my paper scissors. So I'm going to, because I have 2 blue scissors, I have to put an elastic on the other one for me to know that's my paper scissors. So I'm going to be cutting out this pattern, then I'll show you guys in our next class how to alter this pattern. now we're going to cut out our pattern. Like we want to separate the front from the back piece, so I'm going to cut along like so. So I'm cutting out the back pattern first. Good. So I'll take off my neckline. So I'll take off my shoulder sleeve. So I'll come to the front. So I'm trying to create a guide for my bust dart around there. So I'm going to take off my guideline as well. So now we are finished cutting our body. So in our next class, I'm going to show us how to transfer this to fabric, because at the moment there is no seam allowance on this pattern, and how to alter this pattern into anything that you intend to make. So, and this is a half scale basic body. So now, after cutting out our patterns, the last thing you need to do is to eliminate your back puff. For the back pattern, you are going to come in here. Remember, like I said before, there's no seam allowance in our pattern. I'm going to be showing us that in our next class. So to eliminate your back puff, you are going to come in here by 0.5 inches. So I'm just going to mark 0.5 inches here. So that's just also known as a zip budge technique. So I'm going to connect that all the way up like so. So this is for the back budge elimination. So I'm also going to just cut that out as well for the back. This is done only for the back area. So I'm going to be cutting it out like so. So now our patterns are ready for alterations for the next class. So in our next class, I'm going to be showing us how to alter this pattern into anything else that you wish to make.